Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Showing Up to Your Life podcast and YouTube channel. My name is Art Burns, and I am just so excited to be here with you today, as I am every day, to talk about some concepts and some philosophies, and most of all, some practices that can help you to live a life that is governed with presence, which includes acceptance, and which is motivated by compassion and curiosity. Because these four tools, these four sort of concepts are what we need to live a happy life, to live a life of fulfillment and a life of purpose. And it really just does take living with presence, with acceptance, with compassion, and with curiosity, right? This invites us to be open and to have the goal of understanding, right? To ask more questions than we make statements, things like this. And I am just so excited to talk to you today about how it is that we create this world around us, right? Now that's a term that's thrown around a lot, right? Like you create your reality, right? And and it's I get it, right? It's there's a certain level of woo woo spirituality that kind of rings through that statement, right? But it's true, right? Even on a physical level, on a physics level, it is true, right? If you look at a bush, right? I was talking to somebody just yesterday about this. If you look at a bush in a park, right? You see a green bush, right? You see something that is green, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? We all see the green bush. Hey, you over there. See that bush? What color is it? It's green. Yeah, okay, we can all agree that it's green. However, it's not as cut and dry as it seems, right? Because if you were to take a dog over to that bush and say, hey, dog, what color is that bush? If the dog could speak, the dog would say, it's gray. I don't see any color. I don't know what this thing is that you call green. I see a bush there that is gray, right? And if you were to take a salamander, and ask the salamander, hey, salamander, what color is that bush? The salamander would say, well, it's glowing in a color that you wouldn't understand if I tried to describe it to you. The reason for this is that the bush itself is, we don't really know what the bush really is, right? All we know is that the photon particles that come from the sun are bouncing off those leaves into our eyes, are being processed through our optical nerves, and then translated into information in the occipital lobe, which is at the back of our head, back of our brain, right? So and the reality is that even if you and I were to stand there looking at this green, there's no indication whatsoever that you and I are seeing the same thing that we call green, right? Like that's the real like wow, but it's true, right? Like there's no such thing as a green bush, right? The green bush is in how we perceive it, right? Because again, how could it be different for for three different animals? And of course there's many other animals that would describe that bush in a much different way than you or I would, right? When we just say it's a green bush, right? And again, who's to say that what you see as green and what you're describing as green is exactly the same as what I am describing as green? Chances are they are not the same, right? They're always going to be consistent, right? So like that thing that I call green is the same thing that you call green, because we have that sort of shared language about it, right? But I don't know what green really looks like to you. Just like you don't know what green really looks like to me. And in this case, right, in this sense, because it is very much a sense, right? But in this sense, we could say very accurately, and this has been said very accurately by others before me, we could say that the entire world that we're experiencing is not experienced out there. It is experienced within our own nervous system. Or you could even go further to say that the entire world exists within our own nervous system. right? And that's intense, right? Because this opens up when we can kind of, grasp that and we can accept that fact, right? That the world does not exist as we, the world does not exist, independently of how we see it. The world exists exactly how we see it, right? When we can accept that, then it opens up a whole world of possibilities for ourselves, right? Specifically when it comes to stress reduction and the stress that we feel through our given situations. So let me explain what I mean by that. It is so easy and so kind of automatic to say that, it's the people in my life that are causing me stress and discomfort. It's the fact that I'm so busy that's causing me stress and uncomfort. It's because I'm overweight, or it's because I don't look the way that I'm supposed to look according to the magazines, or because I don't have enough money, that's why I'm not happy, right? So easy to make these kind of statements for ourselves, and we really believe them, right? And the fact of the matter is that none of it's true, right? And there's another very, very old statement that you hear a lot, especially in my world of mindfulness, which is don't believe everything you think, right? And that's the thing, right? That it's just because you think it's the people in your life that are making you stressed, feel stress and react in a hyper aroused way that is consistent with the stress response of your body, right? You think that to be true, but just like we think that's a green bush over there, we just discovered that that's not really true. And so is it true that the people in your life are the ones creating the stress in your life? Or again, the traffic jam, or the holiday shopping, or the budgeting, or the bank account, or the house, or the clothes, or the kids, or any of that stuff, right? It's so easy for us to sit here, and so intuitive for us to sit here and say, this is why I'm suffering, right? This is why, it's the messy house, it's the Christmas shopping, it's the traffic, it's the this, it's the that, it's all of that stuff that's making me suffer, right? That's why I say that, to be happy requires a couple of key components that I start almost every podcast with, right? The idea of presence, acceptance, compassion, and curiosity, right? Because when we're, again, like let's go through the four, right? So when we're not present, right, we're thinking about an outcome, or we're thinking about something that led to this point, right? But what we're seeing as that potential outcome, and what we're seeing as the thing that caused us to get to this juncture in our lives, right, in this very moment, those things also are products of our thoughts, right? They're products of our assumed understanding of things, right? Just like the green bush. There's very little difference, right? Because the fact of the matter is I told you a story the other day, right? I have clients who tell me things like this all the time, but I had one client who said, if you told me that a year from now, or if you had told me a year ago that 1 year from now I would be, living this life that I'm living, I never would have believed you. In fact, she said she would have called me a snake oil salesman and run away from me, right? Not walked, run, right? And we laughed about that. But that's the thing, right? She could never have conceived of the potential that she could have gone through over the course of the year. And that's what holds us back most of the time, right? Because we don't believe it. We don't see some sort of, potential there. We don't see how it could possibly happen that way. So therefore, we don't believe that it can happen that way, right? But yet, and that's why I'm very careful with my clients. I never, ever, ever say, hey, in 6 months, you're going to be doing this, 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 and this. Wait till you see it, right? Because, of course, once we set that up, now we're creating that reality, right? But again, sometimes that's not the reality that's going to actually happen, right? And so we create confusion about it. So I never, ever say that kind of stuff. I just allow, we just work moment by moment by moment by moment, and looking back on the year, we're like, oh my goodness, look at all that I've done. Look at my life, how it's changed, right? It's amazing how my life has changed. I hear that all the time. And it doesn't have to be a year. I mean, some people say it after just a couple of months. Some people say it after just a couple of weeks, right? So being in the present moment, right, and not, not creating this false understanding of what might happen in the future, or what happened in the past, because it's the same thing works in retrospect, right? Because when we're looking back on things, as I told you the other day here, we're only seeing the things that are in our memory, right? But of course, we don't remember nearly. I mean, you remember, I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm sure it's somewhere around like 10% or something like that you remember of what actually happened over the course of a month, a year, week, whatever it is, right? And those things that you're remembering, those things that you're noticing, are more likely going to be the negative things that you've noticed, right? You're creating this reality, right? You're creating the reality of what happened over the course of the last year, right? But it's not necessarily accurate, right? In fact, most of the time, it's not at all accurate, right? So that's presence. Now, acceptance is a really, really big one when it comes to the idea of how stress forms in our bodies, right? Because like I said, right, it's so easy for us to think that the holidays are stressful, that work is stressful, that money is stressful, that traffic and commuting is stressful, that having kids is stressful, that cooking, that cleaning, that the decorating for the holidays, all of this stuff is stressful, right? That it's full of stress, right? It's so easy for us to sit and think that is the reality. But in fact, none of those things contain any stress at all, right? Traffic is just traffic. Holidays, the holiday that you celebrate, whatever your religion or culture, you subscribe to and celebrate, it's just a day, right? Traffic is just traffic. Buying stuff is just buying stuff. Money is just money. None of this stuff contains any stress, right? But it's the way in which we perceive these things, and it's the way in which we either accept or refuse to accept. And that's what creates the stress in our bodies, right? It's not the holiday shopping. It's the fact that you believe the holiday shopping is uncomfortable. That's what's creating the stress. It's your belief that you don't have enough time to do it. It's your belief that, that if you don't buy these certain things for these certain people, that somehow people are going to be upset and all that kind of stuff. Again, construct, right? That's just all stuff that you are creating, right? You are creating that reality for yourself. And that is coming through the inability or the unwillingness to accept what it is that's happening around you, right? The minute we can accept that, yes, okay, I have to buy these 4 gifts for people because they're people who I love and they're expecting, my kids or whatever, it's just kind of part of the deal, and yes, it's going to be hard to do, right? But it doesn't mean that I have to suffer through it. Right? I can just accept the fact that, at this time of year, when I go into a mall or a store, or I go online and search for this stuff, it's going to be difficult. It's going to take me 2 hours to do it, right? And if I can accept that, and it actually takes 2 hours, then what's the problem, right? There's no conflict there. It's only when I'm walking into it and saying, oh, I have to go into this store and it's going to take me 2 hours and I don't want it to take me 2 hours. I refuse to accept the fact that it's going to take me 2 hours. So now I'm going to walk in there with a grimace and I'm going to be ready for battle. And then what happens, right? What happens when the stress response, rises in that perception, right? Because you wind up feeling fear. about the 2 hours that it's going to take you to buy these gifts in this particular store, whatever it is you're doing, right? And so now when you're feeling that sense of fear and that sense of lack of control and the, and the stuckness of that, right? Like I'm trapped in this. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm going to sacrifice 2 hours of my time. Well, now you're in a state that every person you talk to, right, you're gonna like pretty much growl at them, right? Every situation you experience at that point is going to come through this perception, or more accurately, this heightened arousal that is caused by the perception, and now everything is going to increase and add to that suffering, right? So the key there is, again, acceptance, right? Moving on to our third point, right? Compassion, right? So many times the stress that we feel is triggered by the way that we think people are believe it, the way that they feel about us, right? We believe that people are thinking things and believe that people are acting in ways that are hurtful to us because of a construct, right? And when we can practice compassion, and when we can meet each moment with and have our hearts lead us through each moment with compassion for others, well, then you know what we wind up doing? We wind up seeing the fact that, wow, this person who just was, sounded really rude to me in this store, and seems to like have something against me or something like that, instead of reacting to that, when we practice compassion, we can stand there and say, gosh, this person is probably feeling a lot of stress in hers or his body, right? They're experiencing stress, and the reason they're probably experiencing stress is because they don't believe they have enough money, or they believe that they need to buy more than they can afford. They believe that this is hard, and this is miserable, and this is, they believe all these things, and so therefore they're in the stress response. And once we can feel that way, now we can do something like smile at the person, right? We can say, hey, I hope you have a great day. We can do something that maybe turns things around for that person, right? Maybe reduces that stress just a little bit. And of course, this is backed by science. Like everything I'm telling you here today is backed very, very strongly by science. Okay, there's been many, many studies that practicing compassion, just simply practicing, concerning yourself with the well-being of others, right, has been shown, and very clearly and unambiguously shown, to reduce the stress in our bodies. Okay, there's no ambiguity there at all, right? So trust me on that. Or if you need backup information, please just let me know and I'll send you some articles where I get all this information from. Okay, but this is not just something I'm making up as I'm going along, right? This is all founded on a lot of research. Okay, and particularly self-compassion. Right? Like self-compassion is a huge thing there, and I do not separate the two. I do not separate compassion for you and compassion for me. I look at it as a cycle, right? I look at it as a circle that happens between you and me. And that when I feel compassion for myself, I can easily feel it for you. And when I can easily feel it for you, I feel it again for myself. And that's a beautiful thing. And it has made life so much more enjoyable, because again, now I am perceiving this love that's going around, as opposed to perceiving this anger and this animosity and all that kind of stuff. And again, it's all in here. Right? What you're doing has nothing to do with me, right? But it's my perception of what you're doing that causes me to either feel, joy and love, or fear. And if I'm feeling fear, then I'm going to feel the stress. It's that simple. It really is that simple. And then finally, that brings us to curiosity, right? And this is my favorite one. It really is. And I'm going to very honestly tell you that one of my clients is really responsible for luring me into this love for curiosity. It's not like I was ever against curiosity. Of course, curiosity is built into non-judging awareness, right? Because non-judging could be said to be curiosity, right? Because when we're judging things, we're closing off. right? When we're judging, we're evaluating things and we're placing labels on them, and this is a good thing, this is a bad thing. Shopping during the holidays is bad. Shopping during Super Bowl Sunday is good because nobody's at the stores, right? Like once we label those things, now we're shutting things down. We're placing things in boxes all over the place, right? And that is the opposite of curiosity, right? So instead of labeling like, shopping during the holiday season is bad, we could say shopping during the holiday season is really interesting, right? It's really interesting how people are acting around the holidays in the stores. It's really interesting to see how the retail workers are coping with what they're dealing with, right? And again, when I can be curious about what that retail worker is experiencing, right? And how many stressed out people this young person is dealing with on a day-to-day basis, that opens me up for compassion, right? And now when I get to the cash register and I'm, checking out with this person who looks like she's just, ready to fall over from all of the probably enormous emotions that she's experiencing, that she's receiving all day, right? Now I have a chance to say something kind. I can acknowledge her as a human being. I can say, I really appreciate your help. And I can say that from my heart. And let me tell you something, people know when it's from your heart versus when it's just, oh, have a good day, on my phone, like, see ya, have a good day. That's not from my heart. But when I look at you and I make eye contact with you and through my mask, right? And you can see my eyes, and I'm really speaking to you when I say, hey, I hope you have a good day. I hope your day is filled with happiness and not with anger from customers who are just, stressed out. And I hope that, when you do experience stressed out customers, please understand it's not you that's doing it, right? I could say something like this. I mean, obviously, I don't get into these really deep conversations with every cash register, and there's a slip right there, right? Because that's how we see them. We see them as just, registers with arms, right? But I don't get into these conversations with everybody who I speak with as, as a cashier or a clerk or whatever. But I do give them a heartfelt something. And when they feel that heartfelt something, you know what they feel? They feel like a human. They feel valued. They feel understood. They feel loved. Even though I don't know them and I might never ever see them again, they feel that communal human love. And that, my friends, is the key. Because again, when we feel that, right? When we feel that ability to or when we feel that connection to someone, right? That okay, yeah, there's another human being here, and this person feels the pain that I'm feeling. I don't feel as afraid all of a sudden. I don't feel as alone all of a sudden. I feel like the universe, the God, the humanity, whatever it is, nature, I feel like it has my back a little bit more than I felt, 5 minutes ago, right? And all of that started with an open curiosity, right? With the unwillingness to judge and box and label and compartmentalize my experiences, right? It all started with the openness of curiosity. So that's the thing, folks. Okay, we really do, create our world through our understanding. And if we can, filter that understanding with presence, acceptance, compassion and curiosity, and compassion specifically for yourself and for others. That's an important thing because there's plenty of people who feel like they're compassionate for others, but they beat themselves up. It's important to do both, okay? So it's almost like 5 things, right? But I combine the two into compassion. But yeah, if you can, live with these qualities in your nervous system, in your perception, well, then everything that comes in, the reality that you create by having these concepts in your consciousness, the reality that you create is going to be one that is not going to include a lot of stress, that is going to include the potential for a lot of happiness, a lot of fulfillment, a lot of joy, right? And I want that for you so much. I really do. I really do, because I'm going to tell you something very, very straight up right here, okay? If you talked to me 10 years ago, I was not this. Okay, I was anything but this. I was stressed out all the time. I was angry most of the time. I was afraid, which is where the anger really came from. I was, punishing myself with bad habits, with maladaptive coping mechanisms. I was a mess, and you would never have believed me. You would never have recognized me back then from what I am now, right? And that's the thing, right? Like, I'm still a person. I still have the same name, the same social security number. I still have the same human sort of trials and struggles that I go through, right? But the difference is that I've created this reality around me that is composed and built upon presence, acceptance, compassion, and curiosity, and especially self-compassion. So that's what it is, folks. All right. And so I hope this helps you, and I hope that you can. And the thing is that all of this, right? All of this, it's the easiest thing to develop, right? The most simple thing to develop. Okay. And it really does start with just spending a few minutes every morning, just being still, right? And letting go of all of the all of that stuff that creates this reality of suffering and stress and emotions and all that, the difficult emotions, right? Just being still and allowing yourself to dwell in that stillness, right? It all starts right there, because that's what you're doing when you're in stillness, in meditation. You are practicing presence, right? Because you're not thinking about what you're doing in 5 minutes from now or what you did 10 minutes earlier. You're just here, right? You're practicing acceptance because you accept the fact that your mind is going to wander, and you practice acceptance and letting go of those thoughts and returning yourself to the now. Right? You're practicing compassion because this alone is something that is beneficial to you. And of course, I purposely build into meditations that I ask people to do. I purposely build in compassion, and then I have people do those practices on top, right? And then, of course, you're practicing curiosity, because as you're sitting there in a non-judging, open way, you're saying things like, look at these thoughts that are going through my mind. Isn't this interesting? Come on in here, you negative thoughts, you. Come on in and sit down. Let's have a cup of tea together. Right? And that's what you're doing. And it happens very, very quickly. Okay, I'm talking about after just a few weeks of doing this every day, you're going to start finding yourself, doing this more and more automatically. And every day you do it, it's like, it's like making another deposit. And before you know it, those deposits add up, and now you're completely automatically, living with presence, acceptance, compassion, and curiosity. And it really does happen that way. It's not magic. It's not some kind of sorcery or any kind of It's so straight up. It's so simple. It's almost like scary how simple it is. So if you'd like to learn how to do these practices, again, that's the key, right? And that's what I do, right? That's all I do for my clients. I teach them how to do this, and I get them through those first couple of months, right? Because once you get through 4 to 8 weeks, now it's a habit, and it becomes a habitual skill. A habitual skill is something that, when a stressor comes up, you deal with it in a specific and automatic way. And this keeps you at a place of homeostasis and calm and curiosity above all else. So if you'd like to learn, please hit me up, okay? And now lastly, you know what I'm going to say here, okay? Do the things, okay? Please, the like, the subscribe, the hit the little bell there so you get a notification every time I publish something new every day. Share, comment, do all that if you can, okay? I love to see your comments. I love to reply to your comments. I know there's one person who I still owe a comment reply to, and I'm sorry. It's coming. I'm going to do it right now. But I love it. I really, really do love it. And if you're on the podcast, again, just rate the podcast. Just give it whatever you feel is right, okay? I would love to think of it as a 5-star rating. I put 5 stars of effort into it, but whatever you feel is accurate and true. And also, if you could leave a little couple of words. I'm going to tell you something, okay? I actually am just drafting a little email that I'm going to send out about a really great mindfulness program that's going to happen next week, Monday through Friday, just geared around holiday stressors, right? And so part of this is I copied and pasted some of the reviews that I've received through Google reviews, right? And it just, I have to tell you, like, the tears well up in my eyes when I read how people have really, the things that people have gotten from, the benefits that people have gotten through this work. And when I read their words and how amazing they're feeling and how much they feel that I helped them to do this, oh my gosh, you want to do an act of compassion? tell me what you think of me, because it really, really does help. And I'll do the same for you, okay? If I, when we get to know each other, I'll be happy to do that. I do that for all my clients. All right, everybody, thanks again for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll be back again tomorrow. I wish you well, and just be aware today that you are creating this world around you through your perception. And if your perception becomes rooted in presence, acceptance, compassion, and curiosity, I promise you the world around you will change. All right, everybody, thanks again. Be well. I'll talk to you soon.